So welcome back. Today, I'm going to show you guys how to play as a sniper. Now, obviously, it's not going to be me because I'm straight doo-doo cheeks as a sniper. I'm straight doo-doo butter. Matter of fact, I'm straight Chio ass. I'm straight Kanami ass. But you know who isn't ass? My young slime Ducvko. You know, I'm starting to think about it. That's not actually how you say the name. I don't actually know how to say it. I know that they told me that that's not how you say it, but I don't I don't remember. They say that everyone just says Ducvko, but I don't. Bro plays Strinova with a 2008 Chromebook that you got from school. Like, you know your stuff, period. What else I gotta say? He doesn't have any form of social media. Sadly, that's like connected to the game. That's like connected. Obviously, someone has social media, but like not anything that's like connected to Strinova. So like send him a friend request, ask him to play with you in ranked, you know, just be friends with him. Like, bro, it's right there. I know you want to. Let me explain how this video is going to work because it's going to be a very different video compared to the other guides that I do. So I decided to play both snipers in one instead of just single-handedly playing a single sniper for every map because I feel like every sniper is different. One sniper is completely different to another sniper in terms of like players. So I decided, hey, I'm gonna grab one person. They're gonna do 3 maps. They're gonna tell me how they play as Koko and how they play as Kanami. After this video, I'll have 3 people explain how they play 3 separate maps as Koko and as Kanami. That way you can kind of have an idea of how different snipers play different maps and play both sides. But obviously Ducvko is my slime, so you know I had to give them the first video and I had to let them choose the maps that they wanted. So everybody else, they got to choose the remainder maps, the bottom of the barrel maps, the low income maps, but yeah, also if my mic quality is a little bit low or a little bit crusty, don't worry. I tried to make Ducvko's voice a little bit louder instead of mine, so just to level it out. And also remember, he was recording this on a version mobile. So if his mic cuts out once in a while or there's like a little bit of lag in between, it's because of that. But don't worry though, the video is still perfectly the same. Everything's normal. Just keep in mind, it's going to be 3 maps: Cosmite, Windy Town, and Raunchy Street. If you guys like Ducvko, I could bring them in again. This video is going to be very long, I know, but Ducvko just gets so into detail and I think it's very good as a guide. So thank you so much, Ducvko. But anyways, let's just get started.
Remember, more espresso, less depresso. I'm still depressed, but now I'm fast.
For nades, when you're on Kanami, the default I go with is interceptor and frag. However, I know that if you're going to be playing really far back as Kanami and you're going to be basically the post-plant guardian of the bomb, taking a win nade over an interceptor is pretty good if you have your allies taking a lot of interceptors. Slow nade is also pretty useful if you're playing a bit offensively and you want to prevent enemies from papering in front of you. So, but taking a frag is pretty solid, so you can secure your kills from long range. You can also take a smoke nade because Kanami does have her scan, so you can smoke scan yourself or smoke scan for your allies. So the main 3 I would go is frag, smoke, interceptor, and maybe a slow nade.
So you wouldn't use a shield nade or a tattletale, not even a heal nade or a flashbang?
Usually a tattletale is only for flank watch, which you can take it. However, usually the other util has more value unless you're playing really slow and to watch your flank with a tattletale. And in that case, because you can also switch out util mid-round and you know that the enemies are going to come at you from the flank a lot, you can switch to a tattletale for the next round and then switch back if they start adapting to it. Shield bubble as well for Kanami. Because she's an attacker, she can kind of get out pretty fast. So unlike defenders where they're constantly being pressed, because attackers are the ones always charging at the defenders, you can back off pretty easily and take cover unless you're in the open. So shield nade has less uses than it does on a defense-sided character, unless you're like entry, but Kanami isn't an entry, so it has less use. Flashbang kind of is hard to use as a sniper unless you throw one really high. So if you throw a flashbang and then scope in, and by chance the flashbang is visible in your unscoped view, it'll also flash you while you're in your scoped view. So it's kind of hard to use one. You should rely on your teammates flashing for you rather than flashing for yourself as well, because you'll have, by the time the flash goes out, you'll need to draw your gun, potentially rechamber a bullet. So there's more tight timing by using a flashbang. If you know you're going to play aggressively, you know the enemy team will get a lot of chip damage on you, based on the way you're playing. Going frag heal is very solid as well, especially if you don't have like a fragrance on your team. If you have a fragrance on your team, I wouldn't go heal nade. If you have a Celestia on your team, there's also like the chance of you not wanting to take a heal nade in case you're over shielded by the Celestia. But usually if you have a healer on your team, because there are other people who can serve that role for you, you don't really need the heal nade unless you don't have one. And you know you're going to play aggressively, take a lot of damage, and you're going to re-engage in fights. First thing I recommend for both snipers is you want to take ADS speed, either quick zoom scope or ADS speed. So ADS speed will just increase your ADS speed, while quick zoom scope actually does increase your ADS speed and give you the 4x zoom scope. So that's all up to preference, which one you pick between. However, I recommend usually the ADS speed, because if you're going to be taking fights against another sniper, taking pot shots at other people, you want to be able to zoom in fast so you can get your dot on them quick and not have any missed opportunities. ADS speed usually is a round 1 pick. I've been doing this since like season 2 and it hasn't failed me. You could also go with maybe rechambering or charging speed, just because you can do more damage to a body shot with them, and rechambering speed you can output more bullets. But usually if you're playing another sniper who has ADS speed and you have charging speed and rechambering speed, what'll happen is they'll just quick peek you and you won't be able to scope in fast enough to fire back. So that's why I usually generally recommend ADS speed off round 1.
Do you pick quick like ×4 zoom, or do you just go with regular ADS speed?
So it really depends on the map for me. For every single map, usually I go 4x. I've been using 4x for a few seasons now, but 4x scope is what I use. And then there's only one map which I use the regular ADS speed, which has the 2.5 and the 1.25, and that is base 404. And that's just because base 404 is such a small map, you don't need the intense and long distance zoom that the 4x zoom gives you. So if you get 250, sometimes, hey, if you even do well enough, you can get enough for a green and a blue. But if you just get enough, what your next upgrade should 100% be armor, and it should always be light regen armor as a sniper, because it'll allow you to take damage and then re-enter fight after letting your armor regen, unless you have a Celestia. But you need to know if you're going to stick around your Celestia or not, because Celestia's passive, I believe, has a distance requirement on it, unless that's changed. But otherwise, I recommend light regen armor almost always, for almost every character.
Let's say that things go bad, you get touched aggressively by a Bimo, you only have enough for a blue. What do? Do you sell for armor, or do you get another blue?
See, what I do kind of depends. If I know I'm getting rushed a lot, I would sell my blue and get armor. However, if we lost and I know that the enemy team is just winning solely off of team play, or the enemy team is just won the defuse, they just won their fight, and they're not playing super aggressive or anything out of the ordinary, I would actually just not buy that round. Losing ADS speed just makes it harder for you to win the next round, instead of selling and getting armor, because getting armor just increases the sniper survivability. And in that case, you just increased your own survivability and not really impacted your ability to help your team, which is why I always like to keep my ADS speed upgrade, unless like the enemy team is super aggressive. If you have enough for a yellow, I would probably get it just for the AoE damage. However, if you have enough for a yellow and blue, I would go for charging speed and a yellow. Because you want to, your A1 is pretty important for Kanami, just because it does give that extra damage, so you can one-shot body on full charge, which is pretty nice, which is why I would go for A1 if you have money to get a yellow. If you don't have money to get a yellow, for example, you didn't do enough damage and you won the round, but you died, for example, so you only have like 240 points, I'd get a blue and then get the yellow next round. So, like, getting charging speed.
If you had enough for a yellow, you would get cooldown?
So it kind of depends. If you have an enemy sniper who's really fast at shooting your Qs, going cooldown is actually less beneficial, because that just means your Q can still get shot as fast. So if the enemies are shooting at your Qs really fast, I'd go note HP. However, if they aren't shooting at them all that fast, I would take cooldown, and it's really all up to preference on how necessary you need your scans. So usually you decide this after a round or two when you need it. You can switch between them as well during the match, but usually it's all up to how the enemy team plays.
Okay. And let's say that the next round, again, right now we have Awakening 1. We have Quick Zoom Scope, Light Regen Armor, Cooldown, just for now, of a personal preference.
Yeah.
And Charging Speed, right?
Yeah,
In this
so
scenario.
you can kind of pick between charging speed and rechambering speed. If you do like putting more bullets down range, you can definitely take rechambering speed. However, you will hit less on your quick scope. So really it's all up to preference. Most of the people that I know do charging speed just because you can get more damage on quick scope. However, rechambering speed allows you to fire more. That's really the only difference.
So those are the upgrades right now, and the next upgrade is for Awakening 2 and Awakening 3, since we have a yellow and a green available. Again, next round, everything goes well. Do you want us to get Awakening 3 or Awakening 2?
Awakening 2 is usually the worst awakening for Kanami because so people will already want to shoot your scan because you have scanned your enemies. They're now revealed. They don't want to be revealed anymore. Taking Awakening 2, which debuffs your enemies, just incentivizes the enemies to shoot the Q even more, because now they're being debuffed, so they need to find it and they need to shoot it. So your Q uptime will be significantly lowered if you take an A2 unless you're doing big team fights, which are sometimes few and far between. So in general, A3 is the better one because it'll buff your teammates with movement speed and fire rate and weapon usability, and it won't incentivize the opponents to shoot back at your Q even more. So buffing your allies is usually better than debuffing the enemies.
So in this scenario, would you get a green?
Usually, actually, I go for more blues because the impact of A3, especially in ranked, you can get it the next round or round before. It isn't like tide shifting awakening. So you can go more for a blue upgrade, usually like something like string damage you'd want to take just to increase your damage output more, and then go for A3 next round.
So if you would have enough for A3, let's say you have 300, would you spend all 300 on the next blue upgrades and have it all maxed out?
Yes, I would do that. I would spend on both blues and then get my last green, and then the last yellow is the very last upgrade. Don't take sprint speed. Like, just don't. I know a lot of people do take it, and it's only really useful on defense because you need to do rotates a lot. However, on Kanami, you're attacking, you don't really need to do crazy fast rotates, and you can be the last one to rotate and draw attention to yourself. So just don't take sprint speed. Taking stringified damage on firing is just significantly better. Last blue upgrade for reload speed or mag capacity, that's really up to preference. Magazine capacity pairs really well with your chambering speed because you're putting a lot of bullets down range, and you can put more bullets down range as well. While reload speed goes pretty well with charging speed because you're going to be taking more quick shot, you're going to be emptying your mag at a somewhat consistent pace, and you could sometimes be up close taking your charge shots. So reloading your gun fast in like intense situations is pretty useful. As a sniper, you kind of need to be able to move around a lot and not be an easy target for your enemies, which is why I've always recommended going stringified movement speed, just to make it harder for enemies to hit you up close, just to make it harder for enemy snipers to hit you while you're moving, because when you're moving significantly slower, it'll be like much easier for the enemies to shoot at you.
And then the last upgrade would just be duration.
Yeah.
Calling all throat goats, calling all throat goats. You know the ones, they be choking and coughing and wheezing.
Interceptor and frag. You can basically take the exact same thing that I said for Kanami and apply it to Kokonut. Yeah, just minus the healing nade. Yeah, they changed it recently, so you can alt a living player and you can buff them with damage reduction and healing. However, it's a very short buff, only lasts for 12 seconds. So do it to a teammate who you know will like do well in a big like 1v3 situation, and let them survive that fight as well. Don't do it if they're like really low HP and they're gonna die already, because that'll just be a waste of an alt. It's better to alt them after they die.
So when, let's say a teammate is downed, when you press F on them, Koko obviously revives them just by a single tap, but I feel like it takes a little bit longer than if someone just goes up there, presses the F for like 2 seconds, and then they're up. Is that true or no?
I haven't actually measured that before, but I'm like 90% certain that the res time on Koko's tap is the same as a regular person's who holds it down. The benefit is just that you only need to tap once and you're not leaving yourself a sitting duck.
So obviously the first one you said was quick zoom scope. It was quick zoom scope. My bad.
Yeah.
After that, because Koko regens her health, do you still want to go light regen armor?
So I do normally go armor, but if I know I'm gonna be droning myself, like it's just habit building for me. You can not take armor and take a yellow or take more blues, but usually I'd go armor just because sometimes you want to save your drone for for your allies, and you won't know if you're gonna drone yourself immediately.
Let's say that things are again great, amazing. Things are going splendid. This is mostly just the same as Kanami. Do you still want to get a blue, or do we actually go for a yellow this time?
You want to go for a blue because the A1 on Kokonut is less impactful than it is Kanami's. So usually you'd want to go blue, green, blue.
And if everything still goes well, I mean, even if it goes bad, would you? I'm guessing you wouldn't switch anything here.
No.
But if things go well, would you now get a yellow, or would you still just not?
Yes. So at this point, if things are going well, actually, you have enough money saved up to get a yellow, and I believe if you do enough damage, you can get another blue. Immediately after that, next round, get a yellow, and I 100% recommend you getting armor regen for the drone over the HP regen, just because you already have high HP regen on your drone. But armor regen, which is mainly what's going to be taking the brunt of your damage and already regen slow from the drone, you'd want to buff that.
Now, Kokonut's drone heals the main person that you drone, but it also heals your allies, like normally, right?
Yeah. So if you target the one person, it'll heal them, and it'll also do a passive AoE healing to everyone around them.
And this one would just increase armor regen on the drone.
Yeah, however, the AoE healing is specifically to your HP and not to your armor.
So now we have Awakening 2 and Awakening 3 available, but one is a blue and one is a green. Which one would we go for?
So A2 and A3 are really situational here. Regardless of what Awakening you have available, I would go for your next blue, because your next blue is either reload speed or stringify damage, and both are really beneficial over A2. A3 is usually the better option to take if the enemy has a sniper. It allows you to take a fight against the enemy sniper without worrying about getting shot first. It'll allow you to eat a shot effectively. Going for it is very solid when you have an enemy sniper. However, if there is none, going A2 is very, very good, because your AoE healing from the drone will also now reload or heal their armor.
And let's say that next round, I know you might have enough for like a blue, but will we actually get a yellow this time, or do we still want to go for a blue?
Next I'd go for your green, actually.
Your green.
Your string movement speed.
Not the yellow, or not the reload speed magazine capacity?
Reload speed mag capacity on Kokonut is a bit easier to manage because you have the ability to duck behind cover and take pot shots. So you don't really need the reload speed at the moment, but you can. So it's kind of a toss up between the yellow and green here. Usually I'd take the movement speed just because I always like being able to move fast. However, if you do take the yellow for just in case, like, you will be reviving often, taking the first aid HP plus 50, that upgrade's a very solid yellow to get, especially if you want to get A2. Go for your A2 before you get your last green. But if you already have A3 and you want to stick with A3, get your green before your yellow.
And from the yellow upgrades, do we want to get first aid HP or HP regen?
Yeah, go for first aid HP, just because what that means, when you tap someone, they'll be revived at full 50 HP, and that will allow them to immediately re-enter combat upon being revived with full HP, and you not needing to wait until your drone's ready to heal them. It is best to drone yourself unless an ally is in desperate need of healing. And if, in that case, an ally is in desperate need of healing, like 1 HP, drone them and don't peek the sniper. Don't peek the sniper if you have to heal someone else, because you can get sniped and now you're down while someone else is also really low HP. So you don't want to be doing that.
Wait, on Strinova, you don't have a crosshair?
Oh, well, here, yeah.
Oh,
I
you don't have a
crosshair.
crosshair. What the fuck?
Because sometimes people just get so confused with spectating me and I hit a shot with no crosshair on. They get so confused until they start asking me more, and then I'll tell them I'm using just an external crosshair software.
You haven't gotten any like cheating accusations? Because that's like the first thing that's coming up.
No, I know a bunch of high elo players who do it. I know Valorant doesn't allow it, but this game has no problem with it. There's no terms against having an external crosshair. When you ADS on snipers or ADS on any gun, you see this little animation that appears before your dot actually appears. Having the external crosshair allows you to keep aiming while you're ADSing, so you can keep your crosshair on their head during this animation. I don't have the crispiest of aims, so I can't just flick on people, so I kind of need that extra assistance from the external crosshair.
Also, do you recommend people to like have a wide crosshair for people who don't want to download like the external one?
The best way to determine what size of your ADS should be is look at the size of the dot when you're scoped in. Make that the size of your crosshair. The only problem is you need it to be a very bright color or a very contrasting color. So sometimes, depending on the map, I'll change my crosshair color just because it doesn't blend in with the environment.
So what should you do as Kanami at the beginning of Cosmite? Like, is it good to have a Reiichi? Because I know Reiichi's going to be like perma-picked on this map. Is it okay to have a Reiichi and a Kanami both on attack?
Yeah, so Kanami and Reiichi together is probably the best combination of long-range guns you can have on this map. You could also throw in an Audrey. Audrey is pretty strong at being bait for you, so baiting an Audrey is very strong if you have a Kanami on your team. But Kanami and Reiichi together is really strong because when you have Reiichi, you can also throw out your scans behind the wall, and it'll scan through the wall without the enemies being able to see the scan. So you have, even before getting A3, you can technically see through the wall if you put your scan in a spot that can't be shot by the enemies and you have the Reiichi wall down.
Let's say that we're pushing A, because again, we're 90% of the time we're going to be pushing A. Is there any spots that you should know of, like where you're at right now, that a sniper should know?
What you can actually do is if you get on the top of this mound right here, and if you do a sprint jump glide, you can jump onto this pillar, and you can actually see this one angle right here, which some enemy snipers like to play. They like hovering around this area, and you can get a pre-fire off them if you just jump around a bit, or if you know the exact position. Like this, there's a small gap if you're stationary. If a sniper likes playing close to this pillar right here, you can kind of thread this needle and pre-fire them, but otherwise you kind of need to jump over this box. But this is a very common pre-fire spot. However, it's also very easily punishable, so you shouldn't use this spot too frequently, or else the enemy can catch on. If nobody's there, it's actually very helpful because Kanami's passive is a scan, so if you hit the walls close to the corners, you can actually clear out enemies that way without having to wait for Reiichi to scan with his passive, and not wasting, for example, a Lewin knife, because this takes up no resources or utility. You can have right off round, you can see if anyone's hovering there or stuck to that wall, and you can also scan that block right there to see if anyone's playing close, to allow your team to know that it's safe to push up.
Should you take top or bottom, like what you're doing right now?
So if you take top, it means that, again, you're not doing the standing on that pillar over there and doing the pre-firing. If you take top, it means you know someone could be there and you can get a pick. Or it means there's also this one lineup for a scan. Usually you want to not do this one, but sometimes if they're playing very aggressive in the open right here off the beginning, standing right here and right between this brown pillar and this kind of orangey pillar, if you aim right at this top of the pyramid, you can scan right there, and it'll scan all of exposed sight. So anyone who's playing like out in the open right here, it'll scan them. So it'll also give you some sight lines or knowledge on who's playing up close, if you should full push the site, or if the enemies are full stacked there and you need to play a bit more cautiously, or if they're playing aggressively. You can honestly go 50-50 with this. There is no benefit nor like problem with going lower side as well. However, there are things when you get to higher skill level snipers where a sniper can play right there, jump over that pillar and kind of snipe you. So going lower here is fine, but if you will have to be careful if someone is playing right here and wants to just snipe you right off round. So going lower, you have that risk. And if you know if someone does play right there, going up top is pretty beneficial, because then you have more sight line over this gap and this gap where they'll have to cross to get to safety. So you can pick them off in case they make a mistake, overexpose themselves.
The people who usually stand right where you're at, like the Koko, let's just say she's standing there. This is mostly for high elo though, right?
It's getting more common to use this spot. I'm seeing it a lot in Diamond or Neutron, but you shouldn't see it too frequently in maybe Silver or Gold.
And let's say that they're pushing. Reiichi is on that wall right over there, and Kanami's just following. Kanami should be the last one, right?
Kanami can be last, however, it is beneficial to also be a bit in the middle of the push. So if Reiichi shouldn't be the first, you should probably have a Luin or Ming first. Ming to clear this wall, jump over to this side, and then Reiichi should probably be second, hugging the wall, putting their wall down. And Kanami can be about third or fourth in that, and the last person can just watch flank for a second. Mainly because if there's a sniper playing heaven, you don't want your teammates to overexpose themselves before you do to the sniper. You kind of want to take that long range battle before they can, in case the sniper wins and you're now down a teammate.
So let's say now you're pushing in and your teammate Reiichi's about to place his wall, Ming's ready to push. Where should you position yourself right now?
So there's a few spots you can go to. If you have your team playing back like here, you don't have any, you don't have any site occupants. Playing right here is pretty solid if you know that the sniper has a bit of an ego, or Nobu, for example, could play here, has a bit of an ego. They want to keep peeking you. You can kind of hold this and just fire at them if they ever decide to peek you. However, if you know that sometimes people like playing around this corner, for example, I've seen Chios play around here all the time, or maybe a Flavia plays around like right here. Playing right here gives you a pretty good sight line on both spots, and the benefit to it is that you're also cutting the sight line from anyone who's in heavens, so you can't get sniped easily from here. And if you also play a bit back here, if someone's playing right there, like at the doorways, you kind of have a sight line on them. You can kind of thread the needle there.
What's a good place to scan once you're like right here? Because we know how to scan before, but where should you place a scan right here that will benefit you?
So there are a few spots you can scan. This is where I would normally do. So if you're here and you have some occupants, you would save your scan, and you can hit the same spot just by jumping over this little block, and it'll scan the same spot. However, your scan will be more applicable to the situation, since it won't expire and you're closer to site, so the info can be more useful. So that's a pretty solid scan. We're aiming right up there. You can also scan right in between these two gaps, and it'll give you vision of anyone who's on heaven, or this catwalk here. And then if it'll also scan anyone who's playing in this little alleyway there.
Are those the two main scans for like A Site once you're here?
Those are two pretty important ones. Other than that, there are some, like, if, for example, if you have Reiichi with his A3, or just a Reiichi wall with alt, and they do like the alt wall so it blocks off right to this corner, you can throw a Kanami Q right on this pillar. The enemy can't shoot it if there's a Reiichi alt right now, or they can't shoot it if the wall's covering it. Sometimes you might want to shoot it a bit lower, because the wall, you can kind of see how the note flies up above, so that particle can kind of give the enemies an idea of where the scan is so they can shoot it. But it's really useful to shoot on this wall right here if you have a Reiichi wall down.
What should you do once the bomb is planted?
Post plant, it kind of depends. If you have a somewhat aggressive team, playing right here is really solid, because you have really good sightline over there. You can scan this corner to see if anyone's playing in that little cubby, and you can also throw like a scan right there. It'll scan anyone behind this box, and you also have like easy sight line for a huge open area, so enemies won't really be likely to cross. And over here, if you want to play a bit more passively, or for example, like Reiichi has a 3 and he also has assault, so you want to iron wall, you can play back right here. Right here is pretty solid, gives you kind of vision. So if, for example, Meredith planted right here, this is a pretty good spot for you. However, if you play plant, for example, right by that pillar, playing anywhere like back or close to the wall. So if like Reiichi alt wall's right here, you really need to play close to the wall so you can see through it, unless you have your scan. Then if you have your scan, you have the bomb scan, so you can play really far back and not having the risk of being sprayed through the wall. But the benefit of this is also, if you play close to the wall up here, you can also use your passive to scan these pillars to also see if someone is there and let your team know not to overexpose yourselves. Kanami is very useful for info gathering because of her passive.
So it really depends on your team. Like if you're Ming and Lawnmower, I mean, fuck, what's her name? Fucking Lawnmower. They know who it is. If they push heaven and they're very aggressive, you should place yourself in the middle. But if your team just plants the bomb and instantly runs back, you should probably run back with them.
You should probably run back with them. However, running back immediately is also kind of detrimental, because then you're giving them all this space left over so they can play retake on you. You can kind of play as the last one to exit if you just hug this wall here and then come over here. If you play as the last exit, you're kind of safe for the most part. You really need to time your exit to see if everyone else is leaving and the enemy starts pushing up. That's about a good sign for you to start backing off, but you can really hold your ground just because you're covered by this block.
Is there anything else you like want people to know, like something unique or different, or you think A Site's good?
So this is what I do frequently, and it's actually really useful when you have a Reiichi A3 wall. If you're playing close right here, and let's say example the wall is on this side, you can actually kind of creep up. So let's say the enemies are pushing up, they're getting closer and closer. They're trying to push you through the Reiichi wall so that they can get free defuse on the bomb. What you can do is you can kind of hug this wall paper on here and hug it and wrap around this corner onto catwalk. Most of the time, and I'll say like a good 80% of the time, you can wrap around here safely because a person from catwalk has left to focus on the wall. So you get free reign of basically walking over and hiding yourself here. You can just peek out, quickly shoot, hide back, and hopefully hit your headshot, knock them. They don't know where you are, or it'll take them longer to find you since you're not where the rest of the wall is. You don't really want to peek here because then heaven has sightline on you, and you can also be kind of seen. So like if you were right here, let's say you're diffusing facing right here, you can kind of see in the corner of your eye that there's a little gap of the catwalk over there. So it's not as good to peek from right here as it is to peek right here. Even though it is a left-hand peek, you can kind of jump over the wall as well. If bomb is planted closer, like right there, you can kind of inch up above here and then back up behind this cover here. But basically getting onto this catwalk is really good when you have like a Reiichi iron wall. Honestly, being Kanami as first entry on B is kind of good here, because a lot of the time the enemies will be positioned expecting someone like a Ming or a Lewin to peek out. So they could be pre-aiming expecting a Lewin, and if you're Kanami, you have one shot and you can kill with that one shot. So if you land that first shot and you peek wide, being first exposed, you can potentially get that first pick and it'll be really advantageous. It's kind of harder to aim for this just because they're on the left, they're taking a left-hand peek. They don't want to really overexpose them. However, the person on this side will likely feel more safe to peek because they're on the right hand. So they could be pre-aiming you at start of round. They could be exposed, which is why it's pretty nice to be first entry as Kanami. Just so you don't get body blocked, you can jump onto this box really fast. You actually have a really good sight line of right above their head. So you let your team enter first. Your team is entering through that gate, entering into B long. Whoever's playing at that box will start retreating, and when they start retreating, you can actually see them crossing that box over there, and you can potentially land a shot. However, that is a bit of a tight of a window, and you need to be very fast with it. You don't really want to be first entry into site itself, especially if you go lower. Being first here means that you don't really have a gun to clear close angles. So if there's an enemy playing right here, if you're first, you're kind of a sitting duck, because you can only really clear it right if anyone's lurking right there, if someone's playing right there. But you kind of just have to be really lucky and like hit a no scope on them if they're playing really close, which is why you want to wait for someone to clear out this in front of you, usually like a Lewin or a Ming, sometimes Reiichi as well, because he can kind of hit closer shots. But usually right side of B is something that you don't go for as often as top side, because it's a bit easier to get past this big gap. usually will play this. If someone's playing aggro here, the first entry will draw it, and then you can bait out the shot potentially, or you can bait out someone from shooting from long range. Basically, snipe, you just really want to bait out your teammates for a clean shot, but you also want to make sure you hit that shot, or else you just baited them for nothing. Reiichi does wall right side, so scanning the roof is actually really solid. So if you can scan like right there, anywhere on this big ring closer to the back here, on the roof, gives you a scan of all this backside area, especially right here. You can also scan right here, and it'll also scan anyone behind this block. You can also throw your scan like right there to see if anyone's hiding behind this pillar. You can also kind of throw your Q right at that corner. It'll land right on that wall, and it will scan anyone who's playing deep. It will scan someone who's playing close like this, but it won't scan someone who's pressed up against the wall right here. One more you could just throw anyone in the back site here if you do want to scan. So that one's more beneficial for if, for example, you're playing back and your teammates are taking a fight up there, and for example you already have A2 or A3. A2 will debuff the enemies, A3 will buff your allies. So just throwing this right there when your allies are in a fight, because a fight is pretty common in this back area, it'll help your team win that fight.
Post plant.
Okay.
What do we do in that situation? Like, where should you position yourself?
So post plant kind of depends. If you have A3 on your Reiichi, playing here is pretty solid, because then you can kind of play behind the wall, look down here, help your team out play with heaven. You can also play behind this box, and you can kind of thread the needle here, or you can play this left hand. This is really an aggressive post plant. That's really only useful if you already have, like, for example, Reiichi playing right here, and you have like a Ming and a Luween behind you right there, and a Meredith is on this underside. That's kind of a setup you'd imagine yourself playing in. If Reiichi has A3, you're playing 3 heaven here. If you don't have A3, what you can do is you can play right here. However, you need a teammate covering this side so that you don't get shot from the left, so you're kind of protected here. You can also play behind, or play right here if you're playing a bit more passively, because usually this spot right here is a common plant spot. You do have a bit of a sight line on it. If they plant on this side, you can also play deep in the TP. So you can play right here and play post plant. The benefit to this is that if you play close, you have to kind of peek out like this. And if you peek out a bit too wide, if a sniper's playing on this box, they can get a clean enough angle on you to shoot back at you, which is why you kind of want to play a bit deeper to isolate yourself. But usually playing down here means you have someone else playing in this area so that they can help you, or someone in heaven so they can drop down and help you. Otherwise, you're really isolated from your teammate. I mean, you kind of want to put it somewhere deep enough to cover both heaven and the side. Like, you want to put it so it covers a good amount of there and covers a good amount of inside heaven over there. Putting it like somewhere about here covers a good amount. You do have the little corner that isn't affected by it. You're pretty solid putting an ult just in this general area, because B is a very enclosed space. However, if there is an enemy sniper, I would suggest you try and put your ult as close to the enemy sniper as possible, so that they have to move the furthest distance to get out, so that they have the longest time without being able to use their gun. Because A site is very wide, and you have a much larger heaven back here. What you can do is you have kind of 2 ults. You can do an ult right over here, which covers heaven, or you can ult, if you're playing right here, you can ult catwalk right there. You can also ult heaven from this position if you just peek yourself out a bit, right there. But you kind of only have 2 main spots, or you can't cover the entire site. Playing mid for Kokonut should only be done when either your teammates are already stacking A and B and you know the enemy can go mid and wants to. Otherwise, leaving mid alone as Kokonut is pretty solid, because they can kind of really rush you. You do have the ability to play a bit back. Don't really play so close to this box in case, for example, Bimo can dash up here without you even noticing, because a Bimo can run up here and you don't really have line of sight of that, and then they can dash up from this corner right behind this box and jump you. So it's pretty good to just play a bit back on these stairs, only show your head when peeking. If you're exclusively looking for that Bimo or someone who might push right here, you can play like a jump peek kind of, But if you overexpose yourself trying to get this angle while standing, you're exposed to right here, which isn't as advantageous. The mid really isn't a spot that Kokonut has much place being unless you have been forced onto it, or you know that an enemy will push you and you can potentially shut down one of their long range characters. You have two ways of playing. You can, so if you have, for example, a Michelle playing on B with you, or a Flavia playing B for you, it is, or even a Chio, it is better for them to play early. And if both of them are playing early, definitely don't play early. Let's say it's just you and Flavia, you probably want to play one of these two spots for early info, just so Flavia doesn't get caught out. And it's a pretty easy pick. So if you take this right hand, it's better for Kokonut because you can just go back undercover. But playing this left hand is a bit more tricky because you have to expose yourself for longer. But playing both spots for early info is really good. Playing here is a bit more difficult if they have a Galatea and a Ming, because what they can do is they can Q you, and a Galatea can TP right onto you, and you're kind of cooked. So don't play early without a teammate, especially if it's like, let's say you have like a Nobu playing early with you. That you probably wouldn't want to play early at all. You'd probably want to play maybe this left side. Only play the right, this side if you have a teammate playing that right side. You can also kind of play around here. Playing right here, you get a clean angle right there. And playing right here, you also can shoulder peek this and potentially get a pick someone here. But you would need someone to cover you from long range, like a Nobunaga, so that they don't just run at you and kill you. You do have the ability to fly back to right here, because here you're guarding a significantly important part of site. Usually you'd have someone playing right here to help support you, so you aren't the sole person on site, especially since if you're right here, you can only get the right hand peek and you'd have to rotate pretty far to get the left hand. So you should have someone to help you watching this alley, and you can drop down to right here and watch up here. You can also jump back up here if, example, the enemies are pretty afraid, don't want to push in. You can retreat up to here and you can watch this angle to secure it even more, and then you can tell Nobu to, for example, to move over to this side and watch here, or drop down, even play right here and watch there. For post plant, it's kind of hard as Kokonut. Post plant, you want to immediately rotate. So let's say if you're not in heaven and they have the bomb down and you're right here, you need to immediately rotate around here, tell a teammate to come with you, or play cautiously, stick to this wall, gather a bit of info, clear out the space, and then push out around this pillar. This pillar is really solid because you can do the right hand peek and you can also do the left hand peek. And it's not too far distance between. Saving a nade is also pretty good for here because you can nade out this corner to see if anyone is there. So heaven control as Kokonut is very important on B. You're kind of a sitting duck if you stay here for too long, because then the enemies have strong control of the central area and they'll start inching towards heaven and your teammates could be isolated here. So you want to rotate as fast as you can here. To support anyone who might be in heaven and to take back some space after post plant. Plant denial on here, it's really hard unless you're playing in heaven, because in heaven you can deny this space, but if you've retreated and you're trying to deny plant, it's really hard to do it from here because you can't really see that angle, and that's a really common spot right in here to shoot from. And even if you jump above, they can't really see your head. So plant denial on Kokonut is pretty hard on B site, which is why you really need to rely on your teammates. There's a reason why A is my preferred site to play on here, is because there are so many spots you can play. Let's go over if you want to play more passively. You have someone else play early info, and you can play up in heaven here. You can play up in heaven, get some shots off, try and prevent the push from down mid, so they're kind of forced into this alleyway over here. You can also play right here and watch this angle right here to prevent the cross. For example, if you already have a Nobu playing up here in heaven, they're putting pressure on A main, so they can't really push out in the open. They need the Reiichi wall. If Reiichi's late with the wall and they need to cross across here, playing right here is pretty solid because you can kind of get a jumping angle on them. So usually you don't want to start on catwalk. You only want to go to there once the round is started. So this place you should relatively stay away from, and also behind this box you shouldn't really start there because you really only have an angle of here. So you want to play at the big angles when you're playing defensively, so up in heaven, pretty far back as well because you can't get your leg shot at. You can also play right here, retreat back here and watch this angle. And right here, this is the opposing side of the like spawn peak that the sniper can have. Right through there, right through that gap. You also can watch right here. Usually, so a sniper will either peek far out, so their head will be about head level right here, or they'll peek out slowly. So they'll be peeking out about foot level. So you'll need to about, you'll probably want to peek out over your left-hand side, watch over your shoulder, see if they're coming out slow or coming out fast, and then you can kind of expose yourself. Because there's the uncertainty that they peek out slow and they end up at your feet, and you'll have to like move down to them, or they're coming out fast and they'll be head level, so if you're already aiming up here, you'll have to aim up high. Early info in Kokonut, you should really only take about one shot and back off. You can also move up to right here. This is a bit useful, or pretty useful, because you can now see a bit deeper down the stairs here. You can also see people who are approaching this box, because opposed to this, you can't really see if anyone's trying to move up to this box on the right hand side. And you also have a hard time seeing if anyone's, like if you're right here, it's almost impossible to see if someone's walking along this wall towards you. And if they manage to make it safely across this wall to right here, they can jump right on you. From right here, they can jump right on you, and you're kind of in a pickle here. If you are aggressive, like very aggressive at the round start, you have to be very fast with a sword or your pistol out, and you have to jump glide all the way here, and you'll have just enough time to take one shot, and you'll probably want to back away immediately. Back away to about this spot or over here. If they Meredith Q you off, or they Ming Q you off, or Galatea, you need to back off immediately because they'll be on you in like an instant. You need to be pretty confident with your aim though. Like you need to be like able to guarantee that you can do some damage or get a pick off this. Otherwise, I don't recommend you doing that. You can actually play right here and play early info, even though you do see a bit of less info right off the start of the round. You can play here and you can kind of just jiggle out, see if you can punish anyone, or just, you can also hard scope kind of, but you should also be a bit wary of the enemy. Might drop down from above, shoot at you if they're trying to, for example, a Reiichi will commonly hug this wall, and if they're not papered on it, or if they're in their Q animation, you can really easily punish them by hugging right here. You will want to take one shot if right here though, because of how small of an angle you're seeing, you're not exactly doing the most early info you can get. By the time they're here, you'd want to back off, take your one shot, back off immediately. You can also do the same thing as this position over here. In this tight corner, you have to be papered though, and you kind of have to stick your gun into the wall or else it'll stick out. So you kind of want to turn yourself, and you can also not shoulder peek because they'll see your elbow. They'll see your elbow and you can get a bit of chip damage. So you kind of want to hide here as paper, and only when you're ready to shoot, take a shot here. The benefit to this spot is that you can also see this angle. So if they're crossed this, you can't really see them when they cross over this archway. So you can start moving your crosshair over here if you were over in this position. You can also do the same here. However, this one gives you a better angle for anyone coming on A main and tries to clear or tries to cross fast over to this stairway over here. The only downside to this is a relatively close angle. Bimo could probably dash to you and get you. So you'd want to do a fast left-hand peek and make sure you hit, or else they can get to you really easy. Whenever I play Kokonut on this map, I always tend to take a shield barrier because I like lingering around, seeing if I can get a few more shots out. So when I need to get out desperately, I cross this pillar right here, because usually nobody can get to this spot by the time you reach here. You'd want to throw a shield barrier right at this diamond over here on the wall, and you'd want to just glide through it to get to safety, climb this wall, and then make your way behind this box. Okay, so if Reiichi does a wide wall, the wide wall usually goes to right about here, and it starts from about there. You can actually pass the wall and hug right about here, and you can kind of get an angle right here without exposing yourself to anyone on this stairwell over here. Because you're going to be ADS here, you will be able to get snuck up upon. If someone's like right here, they can kind of be up in your face. So you would kind of need help from anyone who's playing up here to assist you right here, or someone who is maybe playing catwalk right here, or someone also pushed down below here. they'd be able to help out. So you shouldn't overstay in this position right here, just because they can kind of jump you. If you're playing Heaven defensively or like passively, so you're not playing early info, in a wide wall, you can just stay up here. Usually, if you're playing alone, you don't want to stay for too long. So if they say wide wall and you can see them slowly making the way to climb up this wall and push you, you want to start retreating immediately. Take this angle right here, watch their jump up, see if you can get some damage off of them. However, if you're playing with someone else, for example a Nobu or a Michelle, you can kind of retreat down here and they take the other angle right here, or you can do the other way around. Your teammate plays down in the teleporter and you play up here and you use them as bait. However, you need to make sure that you hit your shots in that case, just because your gun fires slower. If you see them doing that wall, you can still get a few pot shots off. However, I would recommend, since they're a full bum rush you, back off as soon as possible through this entryway, play on these stairwell, and don't be aggressive, because then they'll be fully trapped in here and they'll have nowhere to go. So they'll need to exit out from either the way they came from or from alleyway. And you have a lot of retreat paths in which you can just kind of slink back even more and more, so you don't have to take the fight. The benefit of that Heaven wall is it's really easy counterable just by either taking a few shots, backing off immediately, and just leaving them trapped in there. Or for example, let's say you get a pick when you shoot at them here, your teammates can come from behind and while you back off, and you can wrap around. But if they do a Heaven push, as a sniper, you're kind of a sitting duck really up close, so you need to back off fast. So for this, it's kind of hard, because when they have alt wall, I don't personally like it when you're staying in Heaven like this, because then what happens is you will now have to cross this way to go wrap around, or you have to push out into the open. And if Reiichi has A3, they'll have full vision on you jumping out, which is why if you immediately see a Reiichi doing his alt wall, I usually recommend first thing you do, not even take shots, start wrapping around immediately down to here, so that you can play a bit closer and just wait on this wall. As Kokonut, you can't really be the entry for the Reiichi alt wall. You kind of have to follow behind your teammates. So once your teammates make space, you kind of want to take space right around here with your secondary, or take this long range fight right here. Kind of with an alt wall, it's really hard to fight with against Kokonut. Usually you're the last one, or usually you're the one defusing the bomb if you don't have a Leona on your team. So it's really hard to defend against an alt wall alone. You really need to depend on your teammates.
Let's say that Reiichi does a horizontal wall from where you're standing all the way to catwalk.
Wall?
Yeah. Normally people don't know about that in low elo, but I'm just gonna add it just as a little pizzazz.
If they do that horizontal wall, playing right here is actually really detrimental, because usually when the wall is placed right here, there's a big foot gap. When you're up here, you can't actually see that foot gap unless you jump, and you can like literally only see their toes. So you're like foot finding for real. So if they do that, you kind of want to rotate immediately. Rotate over here, take this long angle, because there's a big foot gap. You can see them jump up to catwalk a bit. Or play right here and see if anyone really overexposes by jumping on the lower portion right here, so you can see and get a torso shot, and maybe if you're lucky enough, hit a headshot if you aim high enough. But you don't really want to be in Heaven. When you're in Heaven, you're just a sitting duck doing nothing, and you want to be doing something at all times. You want to be either finding an angle so you can throw your drone out at teammates so you can heal, or you want to be able to take a shot at people.
Let's say that they do post, like they planted the bomb, Reiichi did his wall, and now they're running back. Reiichi's over there, Kanami's over there, and there's a Ming in that little house right there, just hiding.
Playing Heaven is pretty easy because you block off this entire main. So playing Heaven is actually pretty solid if there's no A3 wall and they've just run back to plant after post plant. So this is the mistake on the enemies. You have this big gap here you can cover with your aim, with your gun. You can also cover close here. You can also cover this area. So it's really advantageous to play in this position. However, let's say a lot of them are grouped up in this corner. It's kind of hard to see them from Heaven unless you're in this position right here. And in that position, you can't see anyone in main, so nobody's covering main unless you have a Nobu there. So if they're all playing in that alleyway, in that side connector area, you can actually push up, take space here if they've given up this space, or have your teammate clear it before you. You can play these angles right here just like before. You can play this main area, and if you play this box, you can cover this main area, and you can also cover right here with your left hand. And it's a bit better because they won't be rushing at you anymore. They're going to be more focused on preventing someone from defusing this bomb. So playing right here is really solid because you get these good angles to peek from right here and here. And you can kind of loiter around this because they're not going to really rush you because now all your teammates are concentrated in this area. So they don't really feel comfortable of making this big cross just to Kokonut. There's no real use to you playing on catwalk. So unless the enemy sniper, or like there's some people who are ego peeking you right here, you can go from here up this wall, and then you can kind of play right here. So if you've retreated to behind this box, you could also technically retreat up to catwalk. However, this does eliminate some of your vision because you wouldn't be able to rotate from here back down to here. You'd kind of have to drop down, and that'll expose yourself by dropping down. So playing over here means that you're going to stay here for a good period of time and not drop down unless the enemy team is playing a bit passively. If you're playing B Site, you should really be playing a supporting role of either up top right here. You can play right here, and whoever's playing maybe there for early info, or someone down there playing early info, you can support them with shots. Or you can also play early info with them by, if you climb up this wall, jump onto this little windowsill, you can get a shot of people who are like climbing this wall, standing on top of that little windowsill. You can also shoot at anyone who might be right behind this bridge, and you can also get a shot off of anyone who of a potential sniper who might jump peek you right here. Or there's also a spot that can be right on a lamp right there. There are also some off angles you can play. For example, if you play right here, you kind of need someone to play with you over there or over here, so you don't kind of get pushed on silently from someone under bridge, because the angle you kind of want to be seeing is right this tiny angle right here. See if anyone drops down, walks across, and shoot. You don't have any visual of this area here unless you're like jump peeking it, and again, this isn't actually a very good angle because nobody's gonna really expose themselves too much there. If they do push over this bridge fast, you will need an ally somewhere around over here, and if you do have an ally over here, you can drop down from the stairwell and try and shoot over here, but that's only if you have the cover fire from someone over here. The benefit of this spot as well allows you to kind of jump peek this area over here. If they come from the back alleyway over there, you can shoot back at them while they're running over. They sometimes don't expect it. So that's one of the off angles. You can also play close right here, but this requires you to be very swift and fast. One shot, you back off. You need to either hit the shot or don't. You need to back off afterwards, because rechambering that bullet and then going out again to fire again, they're going to be basically right here, and they can jump you very easily. Especially if it's, example, a Ming and they queue you, and a Meredith queues you, and then maybe there's a Galatea teleporting on you. It's just not fun. You can do the same here. However, the benefit of playing early here is that you can now retreat back into mid, and anyone who's playing in mid will be able to support you from here. Or they're even playing a bit out to cover for you to retreat into here. The only thing you'll have to worry about is in case someone's lurking in mid. But playing up top is the safer option if you're going to play this off angle. And then there's also this one that I personally play. If you play right at this corner of the box, you get the largest angle possible for this entire B long. And you can see people jumping across. You can also snipe at people over here in this doorway by the vent. You can snipe at people on the lamp post over there. You can also snipe anyone who's jumping above this wall. And you also have line of sight on anyone who's running down here. The only problem is this bridge blocks a large portion of this wall, so you won't actually be able to see if someone pushes up top and is on this bridge, which is why it's kind of risky to play. You need to time really well. When you're done, you want to just retreat through this gate and right behind this box here. And playing right here is pretty solid because you can jump over, you can take the left hand here, you can take the right hand here, and then you can also overexpose yourself a bit here to get that angle, or on the left side here. When you're actually retreating, you could stay at those boxes, but if there's a Reiichi wall, for example with A3, it's kind of dangerous for you. So you can retreat onto this pyramid over here, or you can play right here, right here. However, because you're playing a left hand, you're actually at risk of someone pushing up from alleyway over here. Post plant, if they have no Reiichi, it's very it's somewhat easy because you can just hold these angles very aggressively out in the open. And not there'll only be one long gun, maybe Audrey, to punish back at you, and you'll be able to basically cover for your teammates who want to push aggressive out through these gates. You can hold these angles. You can also play alleyway. So for example, if they do have a Reiichi, it'll be kind of hard to push through these gates. So if you have 2 or 3 people trying to push down here from your own team, you can support them long range. When they've pushed up, you can also take this space, watch right here, this window. If you've cleared out these, you know there's nobody there, you can expose yourself a bit, look towards this gate or doorway here on the bridge. You can also clear out the bridge one by one. Sometimes there might be someone over there or by the bridge down low. Also be careful because sometimes the enemy team will also just sit here and wait, maybe close here, so that the person who's playing over there won't be able to see you. So right up close here, and if you're overexposed here, they can just jump up and shoot you. But really try and avoid dropping down directly unless a teammate has come to support from here after you push up top. Playing mid in Koko isn't actually terrible. It's a pretty solid position to play. What you can do is, if you had an interceptor, I would recommend throwing it here right immediately instead of a shield bubble. This is an interceptor, and you can basically clear this close. Sometimes they'll be really aggressive, so you might want to at the start of round throw the interceptor, jump across, and aim like right there, because now you have the left hand. However, you have more vision on the tighter angle, so you can see a bit more. If someone's covering left side, you could play here. Usually I'd play here just because this is the more obvious spot to push from. However, if they're pushing mid and you might have one person other mid to guard with you, you can play right here and watch them cross across here, trying to enter the main entryway, and you could potentially get a snipe off and then back off really quick. For early info, you can play you can play anywhere across this, like anywhere behind this box that's covering. You could play like a bit of a tight angle right here, watch them jump through this doorway. This gives you really good line of sight. However, it does leave you a bit exposed, so you can play on the left hand side, and that's a bit of a tighter window. You could also play from around here. However, you can't shoot them off rip, but those are really your early info spots. There is one more that's kind of early info, which is right here. If you play right here, it is a bit dangerous because someone can push up on you from right here, and if you back off, so you do get line of sight for the enemy to shoot you through this gap if you back off while aiming here. So you need to keep track of these two line of sights if you do play here. However, usually when you play here is for this gap right here, is that when they push through here, you can get a really clear angle on whatever person's right behind this wall, and you could potentially snipe them. Playing here really should only be for early info though, or like start of round. Don't loiter around here too much. You do get the opportunity to stay around here a bit longer, but if, for example, they push here and then a sniper pushes you up here, you're kind of in a pickle, so you need to back off. Usually you can play up here sometimes. However, it does only give you body shots, and it really exposes your legs to the opponents. So you could get shot from down here in the torso. You could get shot from up here to your torso, not to your head, but if Kanami has like A1 and she fully charges, pre-aims you, she can one-shot body you, which is not very nice. So usually playing down here is kind of easier because you can't get shot from anyone who's on the lower side. So for post plant, you want to be in garden for most of the time because these are some pretty close alleyways. Taking fights in here, you won't be able to use the full ability of your gun unless you're maybe playing right here. This is a bit of a longer angle, but clearing stuff like this in post plant is not very easy for someone as a sniper to do. So your best bet is to retake through garden, and you can either retake through the stairs and take like a stair angle, jump onto this wall from right here, and then you can get some info, see if it's clear for you to jump over, and then play right around this fountain. This fountain is a really strong spot because if you're right here, you can also shoot at anyone who might be by the air vent, and you can also shoot anyone who's down range here. Once you've done that, usually some people will try and hold pressure to garden from right here. So what you can do is with a teammate, you can take this wide and slowly clear it, or you can use your teammate as bait, have them overexpose themselves, and hope that the enemy team makes a mistake. So if the enemies aren't like fully attentive to their own positioning, they can sometimes expose themselves through this window here. You can take a shot at them through there with full cover. And you can also, if anyone's coming around here, you also have this angle, and also right here. And you can kind of peek out from the box here. There's two options. I usually leave myself this option at the beginning of the round, standing at this corner, so that I can run in right here. And if I know that there's a sniper who likes to play there, I can peek them. However, this is a bit more technical, and I do this just in case someone is playing there. I jump on this wall. Oh, well, I missed the glide. You can go right here, and you get some vision over here on who, if someone might play the stairs here. You can also do a kind of jump peek over this little archway, and you can clear out and get a headshot on them opposed to a body shot from right here. So it does require you to be somewhat confident in your aim, which is why if you know nobody's playing there, when you're on here, you can just glide down and then clear out across bottom. If you do come from up top here, you can watch garden from here. Sometimes there's a coconut here, sometimes there's a coconut there, so be mindful of those two spots. If there's nobody there, you can also come to this corner, see if you can get like a little line of sight on behind this wall, a slight angle. And then if you've cleared all those, you can kind of eliminate your line of sight from this little gap by coming out here and seeing if you can aim towards anyone here. Do this like sparingly, come out, peek, go back, don't stay out for too long. Up here's pretty good because it'll allow you to cover this long distance that sometimes coconuts will play. And drop down here, nobody really has a good line of sight of you from here or here. They have to expose themselves to you, which you can kind of punish if you just play here by eliminating this line of sight. So you only need to focus on there. And the benefit of dropping down here is you can get this long angle on this doorway where sometimes people like shooting to the bomb planter. So if you get a clean pick on them by just peeking out a tiny bit when the bomb goes down, you can just punish them. If they've taken a lot of garden space, you can kind of support by making some space of your own garden by clearing these angles and potentially engaging in a sniper duel at this long range here. Sometimes a sniper will jump over this wall, so you need to be mindful. But also playing this window is very strong for covering this right here, covering down below right there, and covers right here. The only problem is you can only see a bit of their head. So if you're a bit back, they can run out, wrap around this whole area right here without you seeing and climb up on you. So you need to be a bit mindful of that. So you can scan these big back buildings. So that one actually is that one doesn't scan garden too well because there's this wall, and this is actually, funnily enough, this is a 3D structure. So this wall is behind here, so it won't scan anyone who's like right here. So, or even like right here, it won't scan. So it's good to scan the blue house if possible, and high on the blue house. So like right about there, it'll scan a big area over there. You can also scan right here if there's someone on site you might not be able to see by stairs, or you could also do the same there. You can also throw a scan right there on that wall over there, and that'll cover a big area of who's playing this area or alleyway over there, that vent area, this box. It should also cover anyone who plays like the jump up. If not, you can just shoot your Q a bit more to the right.
Is there anything for post plant? Two scenarios in this though, by the way. One, your whole team is right where you're at. Well, before. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Either A, they're all just standing right there, just guarding this place. And two, when everyone is in garden. Like bomb is planted and they're all in garden, or bomb is planted and they're all literally where you're at.
So if they're all where I'm at, it's actually good to stay away from your team in this situation because your team's gonna get run down and you need to defend the bomb. So there's a few, like, you kind of would want to rat in this position unless you're confident in your team's ability to taking that team fight. If you're not, and you want to rat, like you only have a little bit of time left on the bomb, you don't want to lose the fight and potentially get the defuse, you can rat on this little wall here. And if you planted on this pillar right here, you can just hide here and then drop down, peek out, shoot them. There's also, if you can make it across safely, there's also this position, and I don't think anyone covers this. Like, I like hiding here because it's kind of funny, and if they do push this, you can see them clear this area and clear this, jump up top, and you can just watch them run past you, and then you can, from the tiniest angle, you can watch the bomb from here, and then you can kind of do that, or you can just drop down. You kind of want to stay away from your team unless you can support your team in a way from an off angle. You don't want to, what you want to do is you want to be spreading the lines of fire. You don't want to have, like, if everyone's concentrated in here, you don't want everyone aiming down here, or else it's really easy for the enemy to shoot and you can't really build a crossfire. So it's useful if you can come down here as well and shoot at them. However, if it's planted on that pillar, it's kind of hard to defend it because the floor is in the way. So if your whole team's on garden, like I said before, you can help by fighting over here, or help supporting with a crossfire over here, or just watching this side. Could also support from like right over here by these boxes. You can't get shot from behind easily, but you are exposed on the left. Really, you need to just make use of cover here. So you can take this right hand, you can take this left hand. I don't usually recommend pushing up to this fountain unless you have like a sword. This area usually isn't too useful for you to help unless they're taking a big fight here. You can kind of get these long angles right here. If there's a fight in this room, you can kind of come across here. But if they're all in garden, you can also kind of just bait your team out if there's no time. There's this one spot here, which you can just hide in. And you can unscope, shoot, and then retreat back. You can also play right here, because actually this spot right here has really good vision over almost the entirety of garden. So you can support most of your team from right here. You can also, if you're playing post plant and not just trying to run them down, you can play right here. They will this is a common spot to clear unless there's a big fight in garden. So like if all 4 of you are there, the likelihood is that they won't be too focused on clearing this spot and helping out your team, so you can kind of lurk. You could also make your way over to this side if it's clear. Like really, the benefit of having a big team fight in garden is that as a sniper, you can either support your team if it looks like it'll be useful for you to help and if you can hit your shots, or you can also lurk if you have enough time on your bomb.
Okay.
Like you could hide here, you could hide down here. That requires the bomb to be planted on this pillar though. Kinda hide here. So if you go here, you can actually flank the garden fight. When you go in first, sometimes there might be a sniper who's hard scoping this angle. You can go in with momentum, switch out, jump, shoot them. However, that requires you to be very confident and expect you to hit your shot. It's much more advanced. So usually going in middle and slowly clearing this is better. You can also, if you're going in fast and first, you can jump wide like this, clear this. However, you should have one of your teammates watching this angle. When you actually enter, you should be close to the last. So if you enter here, you would want to be close to last, but you don't want to drag behind, because in the case that you drag behind and everyone's already all the way down at bridge right here and you're still hanging around here watching this, you can get pinched. You can get pushed from this area, and then the person from here could start moving their way up, and then you're kind of just, again, the sitting duck. So you want to kind of follow your team pretty closely when they do commit to a decision, or else you're really easily isolated. And same with going banana here, as I like to call it. Here you have nice vision actually on if there's a sniper right here, and you can also if you do push up, you can see right here this long range, and then right here. So going here is good, but you don't really want to push this way unless you have your team with you. You kind of want to take the shortest exit, jumping out wide to A. Okay, so from B, you can start from either 2 ways. You can go from right here, and you can kind of jump wide, see if anyone's hanging there, see if anyone's hanging there. You also have this kind of ability to snipe their feet for here if you peek slow enough. You also get the ability to watch this. However, what I commonly do is I jump wide and try and stick to this wall, and make it to this side. And I only do this because sometimes I might like last minute decision wanted to have come up there, but I'm already here, so it's too difficult to make our way there. That's the main reason. And when you're over here, you can actually shoot someone who might be, or clear this angle with your passive. You can also clear this, and from here you can actually scan site by hitting that corner right there, and it scans pretty much all of site. If you actually manage to hit it on the underside of that and make it go flat, like I just did there, you can scan alleyway too. So you can scan the entire exposed side of alleyway if it's facing downward. So if you're doing a coordinated play and you want to check for rats, you can go this side and just shoot these ledges and shoot these boxes. Also shoot right here, because these are common rat spots for bimos. They just like to hide, sneak up on you whenever they can. And usually you want to be the last one to push up, because you're slowly clearing site for everyone else.
They planted the bomb, and I know there's 2 separate ways to plant right there. If they plant in the middle where you can't see it, they're obviously selling the game, and you should insta report them for colluding with the enemy. Yeah, right there. If they plant right there, just report them for colluding with the enemy. And send them. Where should you position yourself?
If they plant right here, it's like super easy. If they plant here, it's a bit difficult because you have to kind of expose yourself in this area. So here I can show. If you're trying to play around here or play around these windows, it's kind of hard to see if it's planted too close to the middle, which is why you need to kind of expose yourself and play right there. However, that allows you to be shot from anyone who's playing right here and playing right there. So it's kind of, this is a kind of dangerous spot. You really need to tuck yourself in a corner. And in that case, you can't really get vision. So on the bomb, so you need to rely on sound cues, but then you won't know if you're faking. So you need to be smart with when you push out there. You can also play right here. However, right here you can't see this section. So right here would be only if you plant left side, and right here you can actually defend a good portion. So like if it's planted against this box here, you could play from up here. However, it's actually, you can have it planted right here, but what you'll need to do is, if they're fully occupied with defusing it, you can ramp around here, play like this, or you could go, you can also flank from here. However, this is a bit more open spot. Like someone will probably be watching this, probably right here actually, so you won't be able to push this freely unless you fully confirmed with your scan, or maybe a Lewin scan has scanned that area.
Either way, if someone plants there, I'm reporting you for like tax fraud or some shit. I don't know.
You also have this a bit funny angle. So if you have your teammates plant in this corner, you can aim right through this gap at their feet. You need to make sure you don't hit the cloth though. So like that. Oh, on Windy, you have this spot here, which is actually really nice. So like, let's say you're just trying to get an info into site, you can stand up to here, and you can actually do like jump shots up there. You can also shoot there, and also if you jump high enough, you can actually see right over those boxes and see their heads even if they're standing still. You can also kind of aim down there, but that requires a bit of a sharp angle, kind of hard to control. But the main spots to watch with this spot is right here. So like right here. But that should only be done if you're trying to apply pressure. If you kind of stay around here, you can't really play any post plant unless the bomb is right there. So there's no real benefit of doing this in post plant.
Here's what a witness has to say about the incident. Oh god, this is terrible.
So as Kanami, you can, there's 2 ways you can get to C. There's through there's through sewers, and then there's through this way. You can get to sewers from 2 ways. So you can enter down here, which honestly I don't recommend you ever doing. Like you can just get ganked right there. Usually you'd follow your teammate if they ever push there and they want you for a scan maybe, or clearing. Because you'd want your teammate to clear this area first, and then you can like take this angle, because this is a kind of nice angle to take. You can take that snipe, you can take that, you can also take that, but otherwise what you'll want to do at start of round is, of course, this is an early peek angle for both. Like a sniper could play right there, or like a Chio, or a Nobu wouldn't, but maybe a Maddie. They could play right there. they can also be on top of this box, so you want to be conscious of both. Usually I'd peek out close, check this, then check this. Once it's clear, you can also use your passive to scan it. Usually when I push up, I take this angle first as fast as possible, so that like sometimes I'll jump over this box because it's faster than going around it. I take this position fast and then I push out just so I can watch these. If someone else is already watching, so let's say you have a Reiichi and they're here, or maybe you have a Maddie, or just someone who's going Hail Mary for this, they're clearing that for you. So you can take this left side. You can clear this with a scan, see if someone is ratting. I don't usually recommend throwing your scan in a really enclosed area unless you think there would be someone there and that you can't scan. Like maybe someone on your enemy team is like an filthy rat. You could throw your scan there, but usually I'd save it for something right here. Something there. You could also scan on this thing, and that. But usually, like this is probably a better one over there, or even behind these boxes right there, and also inside the hut area. When you push out here, you kind of want to slow clear these areas as well. So scan with your passive. Someone can also be hiding in that little corner, so you'd want to check that. You want to watch slowly, scan for that box, scan this box, or scan that corner. You can also kind of see if someone's hiding around this box, so you can kind of scan there. And also scan at the feet over here. Yeah, you can scan at your feet there. You can also, if someone's hiding there. Playing C-Long, a lot of it is scanning for your enemies. If you go on this left side, if you go on right side, you should play a bit more aggressive, make a bit of space. Try and make your way over to here. You don't want to be isolated here though. Like this spot is a spot that a lot of people will like because it's safe. You can only focus on this one spot. However, it's really easy to get cornered into this spot and you won't have anywhere to go. So it's really good if you play a bit closer to the corner or take the dark room and try and get this angle onto back alley. You can also, if you cross across, you can get this nice angle on the catwalk and above here. You can also help your team out by playing this a bit long and clearing these corners and checking for enemies. If someone's there, someone can sometimes, or usually is hiding in that corner, hiding there. You also get the opportunity to look and see if anyone's flanking from sewers. Coming from sewers, you have the option of coming from this window, and usually you'd want to do that alone, and you'd kind of want to hide. You'd want to wait until someone crosses, so you'd want to have the timing of letting your team hit C, wait for if someone is crossing back here to shoot at them, or if someone might be playing there, but you won't know that. So you need to be a bit patient, but you also don't want to overstay. So if you're here for like more than 10 seconds, you're staying there for a bit too long, and there's probably not someone who's coming that way. So you can just jump down, come through sewers. However, you'd probably want to check first to see if someone's there. And then if there is, you can come out up top. For post plant, there are a few good positions. Usually it's planted here. If it's planted in the open, you can play from right here. Isolate yourself from someone who might be able to shoot you by playing right here. You can also play right here. However, that gives you a cleaner angle. However, you can now be shot from the long range distance. While the downside to this is that there's a big open area, so you can get shot at from a bunch of people who are running at you, versus a tight angle but long angle, so a sniper could punish you. If you take dark room's a very solid place to take, because you can play right here if they're all focused thinking you might be here, because this is a common spot, very common spot to play post plant. You can play right here, peek out, go back. Or if you, for example, took an alley fight right here, you can kind of lurk here and play post plant from here. If you manage to, for example, rotate up to here, you're right here. You don't want to give away your position, so you can kind of rotate around. Basically, for anything planted on this side, you can play from these two entryways to C, or this alley, or the dark room. You can also kind of play it from this ledge here. However, that leaves you pretty exposed, so you need to make sure you time your shot right. In the case that sometimes bomb has a meaning to be planted right there, but the worst part of it is that you can only guard from sewer, and sewer is kind of hard to shoot from because if you're moving a lot, the bar's getting in your way, and then you might also have to worry about someone dropping down, shooting at you from there. And if you're the last one, it's kind of hard to just defend in general because all someone has to do is body block them pretty well, and you won't be able to shoot them because it's hard to reposition yourself. You have to get out paper and then go ADS again. So for B site, when you're entering, usually, so there's two spots you can play. B site, you can watch this to watch flank, or you could play right here. And if you pre-aim this off start, you can potentially catch someone right there. Or there will sometimes be a Kokonut or maybe a Nobu or a Chio who plays right up top, right here, and you can kind of shoot at their legs or shoot at their torso. So they, whoever's up top actually has a harder time shooting your body, so you can get more damage off on them than they can get off on you. There's also this tight angle of sometimes a sniper won't want to peek long with it. I see a lot of people do this. Scanning right there isn't all that useful because all it gets is scanning anyone behind this doorway. And what you can do to scan that doorway instead is using passive. Scan deep, or scan in a peculiar spot to cover as much as possible. If you do not play here and move up there, you can also play this window right here. And the benefit to this is that you get a bit of an angle right there for anyone who plays on the box, and you can also see anyone who might peek around this little pillar here or over there.
So normally 9 times out of 10, no one's ever gonna plant on B. I know in low elo they're like aggressively plant B, but they'll eventually learn that B's not the place to plant. So I don't know if you want to show B in case you have to like post plant, or do you just want to go to A?
B is interesting because usually your teammates should be like notice that we have a sniper on the team. So the best spots for post plant are there and there.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you play right here, you can snipe anyone defusing and play back from here and snipe anyone on the left side. Really, playing B site as sniper is just a big massive ring around the rosy. Because if you're trying to play post plant, like one of the best things is just rotate around here, juke people out, get a shot off maybe, run around, get a shot off. But it's really hard to play post plant as a sniper on here, unless it's from the long range. If you do push B, you should usually go with your teammates, and then if they do plant, back off a bit. Unless you went right side, and you're taking like strong control of right side. If your allies have cleared this, you can actually play for spawn. When you play for spawn, it allows you to wrap around and play post plant from here. So if they plant there for whatever reason, you can take the right side and wrap around, protect plant there. You could also even go here, but there's very limited spots you can use for post plant here. So A is a nice spot for snipers early on because there's a few things you can do. You can play up close here, and usually a Kokonut can sometimes be hiding behind that pillar, and she'll be playing early info, and you can snipe back at her. So you can do that from there. If you at round start are on this wall, you can jump up to this box and snipe to the sniper as well. You can also do it from over here. I see it's possible, but I assume the timing is incredibly difficult because I've never done it before. But there's this small gap you can get from right here that you might be able to catch them while gliding, but it seems so unrealistic. If you ever play playing left side is useful when they start to become wary of you constantly playing this section, trying to get a pick early, so they just won't bother peeking. However, if you go left side, you'll be able to catch them off guard and catch them on the retreat. And here you can also see if anyone's playing on window. You can push up, catch someone on retreat fast enough, because if they don't see you, they might loiter around for a bit thinking, where's that Kanami? Kanami's surely gonna peek. However, they might expose themselves a bit, and then you're fast, they don't see you at all, you come out, shoot them from that angle. Okay, so when you queuing right here isn't all that useful because it just scans this area. So usually don't scan this right wall, including right here. Scanning right there kind of doesn't scan too much of the right side because of the range on it. Like if I were to go over here and then scan right there, you can see with the range of my A3, it doesn't get anyone behind this box. and it doesn't get anyone behind this box. So usually just don't scan the right side. It's only beneficial if you're having A3 economy and you want to buff your allies. Usually you want to throw maybe a scan on that wall over there to scan deep, or you can scan right here to scan behind the boxes, or on this box over there. And that's the same thing as the scan. However, it can also potentially get anyone who's in that little cubby over there. Scanning back here is useful if you're taking a fight. However, it's not all that useful for clearing angles. So don't normally throw your scan back there unless you might be taking A2 for whatever reason and you want to debuff your enemies before you push, because normally you can just scan with your passive. Kind of hang back here, just play the long range fight, put pressure from long range. However, you can also, normally I don't recommend just dropping down by here, because dropping down here doesn't really give you all that much benefit of setup unless catching someone who might be playing close. You can maybe shoot someone who might be hiding behind this cubby here, or behind this pillar right there, or shoot back at someone here. But in the end, this is a more power position right here, because you have a big area you can shoot from. And there's also right here as well. This you should only play if you have allies in heaven, because then you won't be able to be shot from right there. So you can play right here. Anyone who might be playing close to the edge. Right here as well. Anyone who might be on top of this box. Usually you'd want bomb planted somewhere like here, or like here, if you're playing the long range. However, if you do come and help your allies, which is a fine thing to do because it allows you, if you're right here, you can play this angle, but then it becomes hard to play for post plant right there. So planting there is probably one of the better spots to do for defending. Pushing right here is actually pretty solid if you're playing aggressive. Like, you can get these tight angles right here, right there, duck back for cover, watch that doorway. This is also, actually, this is a really good position if you have a Reiichi A3 wall as well, because the A3 wall will kind of cut across. You'll be able to stand on this corner right here. You'll be able to shoot without them shooting back. And over here allows you to stay safe from this box and allow you to shoot in this area. Usually, as Kokonut, you'd want to play early info, or early info, or have one other person play early info, and you can play here. But usually, if there's two people on site, it's best to have both people playing early info, because what you can do on Kokonut is you can also jump up to this box and you can cover this angle, or you could play like aggro up here, watch this angle, or you could watch this angle here, very small angle. Playing here allows you to back off and play behind this box here, which you can still apply pressure from behind cover. You can slowly inch your way back behind the stairs, apply pressure, and then you can focus your sight down here. When you do this, the person down here who is playing here usually should help you by playing somewhere right here. If they're not playing here, don't linger too long here, or else the person down there can just jump out, shoot you, punish you for a lot of damage. So you'll need a teammate to help cover you. If you are not playing early info just because maybe you don't want to, not comfortable with it, you can play up in heaven here, or you can play by this trash bin, even right here, or even right here. Right here is pretty good because you can watch the walkout here. For Kokonut, it really depends on your team on this site, because you need to coordinate with, for example, someone to entry, because as Kokonut you don't want to enter on the site, because if you're in heaven, you jump out, like infinite lines of fire on you just open up from the enemy. Especially even if you're here and you expose yourself to the sniper, someone who might be there, someone who might be there. Someone could be playing on this wall, see that you exposed yourself, jump up and shoot you. Really, you need to time it with your allies. Wait for maybe Flavia to draw fire, and then you could drop down. Wait for your team to... So apply pressure from distance is usually what it is. If you ever play close, it's when they're almost fully backed off site. You jump down, you apply pressure here. You can apply pressure here. You can even play right here, but basically you're defending or guarding the diffuser, or if you're the diffuser yourself, go down when your allies have cleared the site. Basically B site, if you're the only one holding B and you want to know if they're going A long, you can play on this wall right here and kind of zigzag between to see if anyone is going through up top. And this one allows you to be a bit more safe. You're tucked away. Usually if you're playing B and you know you're going to play B beforehand, I'd swap out one of your nades to a win nade so that you can win them off to prevent the push and allow your teammates to rotate fast enough. However, if you have another teammate there with you, what you can do is you can play right here for this angle, watching it. You can also play right on top of this structure and watch people go across here. You can also go on this side and watch the window, but B's a bit limited. You can also play up here and watch this big area here, watch them cross, see them maybe go up this wall trying to go to A. You can also fight the window from here. For Kokonut, it's a bit different. You want to be aggressive when you play post plant, because unless they push you out here, if they push you here, you need to kind of keep falling back, try and make your way to your teammates, and don't take a risky fight. So you kind of want to run around spawn if they keep trying to push into you. You want to take back. If you have allies with you, what you can do is you can position yourself maybe here, take the fight here. You can even kind of play right here. However, this is really far, and you wouldn't want to do this if it's just one ally, because then you're baiting your teammate a bit too hard and they could die really easily. This is a really strong power position. This right hand peek right there, this prevents anyone from peeking out in the open pushing you. And then if you have another ally watching right there, watching this long angle across, you can slowly inch your way up. Your ally should probably go first, and then you follow, you clear out some of these spots. See, you can play right here for early info. You can play right here to watch if they decide to win nade up, Meredith Q up, or cross across into sewer. Sniper can usually play here, so again, be careful of that. When you're playing early info on site, what you can do is play at round start. You'll be about here. You can jump up onto this box, get a peek for a bit, see if they're there, then you can get a quick shot and then back off. If they have a Galatea, I recommend you not showing yourself. Usually do it when Galatea is gliding or something, so that Gala can't insta Q, come after you and get out. So I don't normally like playing super aggro there unless you can like purposefully pick out the Gala out of everyone if they're there. You can also hang around this corner and play like that. What you should do is when you're done playing that, you can go play dark room. This is a pretty strong position to anyone who might be coming up long. You can play close or you can play far. So both of them make your hitbox smaller. I believe about the same amount. This one only exposes your torso. That one exposes a bit more of your waist. Playing close, but playing far makes you a bit harder to hit. Usually you don't want to play early or you don't want to play the beginning of the round anywhere in sewer. Instead, what you can do is watch the exit of sewer by playing something like right here, but that would require you to have a teammate playing early info and C. You could even play right here. Watch this, and you can from here you can jump over, watch sewer, or you could kind of peek out, watch sewer. If you're playing really far back, really need to rely, like if you're playing here and they have you smoked off, you're Reiichi walled, you're Meredith Q'd, you don't know what the hell to do. What you really need to rely on a teammate to make space for you, because if you just stay around here waiting for that opportunity, just waiting around won't make it magically come around to you. You can maybe snipe someone who might want to peek you here for some reason, but usually if you're smoked off like that, it's better to rotate here, take this angle, then move across, clear over here. If you are like unable to push out because you have no teammate, you could even potentially drop to sewer, but you'd have to do that somewhat stealthily. You can go up to sewer, see if you can snipe someone from here. You can even flank, but your timing of the flank would need to be very fast, and you'd be able to come up behind people. It's easier to play pulse plant if you're up here. However, if they push from, so the downside to this is that if they split push from alley, roadway, and push from sewers, you can get crunched if they apply pressure from you. From here, you won't be able to see them running across this angle up top. Be careful of that. If you have teammates playing here, you can rely on them so you can stay a bit longer, which is why sometimes this position is a bit more useful.
So it really depends on your teammates making space for you post plant. Okay.
Snipers are pretty much all that. It's hard to solo carry on sniper on Kashi, I find, because a lot of it is positioning.
They not gonna play with me, bro, because I'm not gonna play. And I don't got nothing to lose. I don't got no family. I don't got no kids. I don't got nothing, nigga.
Thank you so much. I didn't want to make the video like 5 hours long and have it be super like complex, so I'll think I'll leave the maps that no one else wants to do for somebody else. Thank you so much. Again, I know you don't have any socials that are associated with the game, so I'm just gonna put down your like the Strinova account name, and if you want, I can
Yeah,
put their
sure.
Discord just to have something there.
Just instead of my Strinova account name, just remove the not from it. Just because on Discord, most of the communities that know me by Ducvko or whatever it is.
Okay, so I'll just put Duck, like the little picture of your
Yeah,
account,
yeah.
and just put Ducvko. Just remove the duck.
Yeah.
I mean the not. Thank you for being here. I'll try to upload
No
this as
worries.
fast as possible. It's not Ducvko. It's Duck. It's just the V. It's just that little V. But
Yeah.
if you see Ducvko on the online match, you already know his personality. You know his sniping skills. Give him a chat. Ask him for help. He looks like a very nice person. Genuinely, you were able to be here, help me out, even though your voice probably is a little bit cooked. Thank you so much. And yeah, that's essentially it.